previous forecast, but up 22% from last year. They said the harvested area was expected to be 1.62 million acres, unchanged from the previous forecast, but up 17% from last year. November the 1st, the average yield for the United States is forecast at 4,093 pounds per acre. That's down 32 pounds per acre from the previous forecast, but up 159 pounds per acre from last year. Record high production is predicted for Georgia, but so all of a sudden Georgia's not getting all their peanuts in due to the weather. On the average, they're showing that Alabama jumped from 3,900 pounds per acre up to 4,000 pounds per acre. Florida dropped from 4,000 pounds per acre down to 3,700 pounds average yield. Georgia stayed the same, 4,500 pounds. So overall, it's an unbelievable year as far as the peanuts delivery. Normally at this time, we'd be at 79% delivered to buying points. As of this week, 66.9%, and the weather continues to hinder the harvesting of peanuts.
It's a new day. Thanks to the Farm Bill, USDA's conservation programs encourage, even reward, farmers who are willing to make a commitment to conservation. There are voluntary programs which provide technical assistance, cost share, land rental, and incentive payments. Conservation, there's something in it for you. Call or visit your local USDA Service Center. Brought to you by the Natural Resources Conservation Service.
I'm Tyron Spearman for Southeast AgNet.
When it really counts, depend on the source for the latest weather updates, keeping you ahead of the storm. 96.3 FM, 1370 AM, The Source.
Today through Thursday, we'll have a little rain from Tropical Storm Ada. High today, 82 to 86. Low tonight, 73 to 77. High on Thursday, 82 to 84. Then Friday, look for more clouds than sunshine, a warm day with a passing shower or two, and a high of 84 to 86. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm Holly Holdren.
This is Ocala Talks with Tom Schmitz, bringing stories that are important to our community in and around Ocala. Plus, of course, a splash of sports as well. Now, here's your host, Tom.
Good Wednesday morning. Welcome to Ocala Talks with Tom Schmitz on a Veterans Day Wednesday. Today's Veterans Day, where we thank the men and women of the armed services for all that they do to preserve freedom around the world. And I am honored to speak with one such veteran right now. I speak with him every morning, but today it's a little special, more special meaning. Galen Unall from Life South. Galen, happy Veterans Day, sir.
Hey, how you doing this morning? Good morning. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You know, I play the Star Spangled Banner. You know, as you've been in the studio, just off camera is an American flag here in the studio. And, no matter how many times I hear that song, and I'm 54 now, raised in the United States all my life, I've probably listened to the Star Spangled Banner well over 1,000 times. You would think it'd have to be well over 1,000 at my age. And it's still, about the second stanza in, just sends chills through my body, and I just sit there and get all misty-eyed and everything, thinking about what the flag means and the freedom that it stands for and the people that have given their life in the ultimate sacrifice to uphold those freedoms. It never gets old to me, and I just don't understand how it gets old and how some people have a hatred for the country that is the greatest country on the face of the earth. It's the greatest country on this planet. And the fact that there are people that spew hate and that are Americans, not people that aren't from America, people from America that spew hate about how bad they hate this country, it's mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, I've been blessed or tortured. I guess it depends on the way you look at it. That I've been all over the world, and I've lived in another country, and I know what the Stars and Stripes means to so many people from around the world, and I'm always taken aback by people who live in this country that take our freedoms for granted. I just am.
It's like the United States is like the lighthouse of freedom for the entire world.
Well, and that's true. I know people think that that's just political speech, but it truly is. I was in China during the when we were there on my boat. We were going around Shanghai, and they were protesting. At the front of the protest was the American flag, and for what that stands for, and what millions of men and women have fought for to maintain and to keep our freedom. And it's the slippery slope. I tell people that all the time. I mean, you have to fight for what you believe in every single day.
That's why the founding fathers made sure to include the Second Amendment in the Bill of Rights. Is if your government or someone tries to control you through tyranny, that's not going to be stand for. Nobody's going to stand for that in this country, and that's why you needed a well-armed militia. People say, well, that was in the 1700s. It could be in the 21st century the way things are going.
Well, yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, we protect ourselves from ourselves, right? And and I've said this very publicly. I believe the Second Amendment is very clear and that it's a right, and so therefore the government doesn't have any authority to impede on it. So if you want to own a tank, then own a tank. Go get them. You know what I mean? Good luck. I hope your tank performs well.
Yeah, the maintenance on one. Somebody said.
That's what I mean.
What if I went and got that tank out in front of the VFW on 36th? Boy, I could use that. I go, good luck cranking that thing first off.
and the diesel fuel it takes, and
exactly.
Everything else that goes along with owning a tank. But again, you have every right to own a tank. I believe that. I believe our forefathers meant that. A well-trained militia. I think that's exactly what it means.
Well, and you'll hear people say
a well-armed militia.
You'll hear people say, yeah, but they were talking about muskets. No, they knew that weaponry would advance and a well-armed militia stays up with that. I remember the first time I saw something that a guy told me it's my Second Amendment right, I can own it, is I went to a friend of mine's house in Doraville, Georgia. I don't know if you know where Doraville is, but it's a suburb of Atlanta. I went to a friend of mine's house because he wanted to show me his new gun he had bought from an Army-Navy surplus store on Buford Highway. This was 1985. And he shows me, he comes in and he goes, dude, look at this. And he goes in his backyard, he has an anti-aircraft gun on the slides. It's a World War II gun, and back then they had them on the slides because it would recoil and it would slide, 15, 20 feet, and then they'd push it back in position and shoot again.
Sure.
He had one in his backyard. I go, what are you going to do with that? He goes, well, I don't know, but it's cool. And I was like, but what are you going to do with it? You can't fire this thing. He's like, well, the Army ain't never taken me. I was like, okay, I see. That's good.
Well, but again, there's nothing.
But that's his
again,
right.
I don't have a problem with that. I really don't. And I know people look at me like, wow, how can you really believe that? I just do. I am and I'm on record. I am a terrible shot. I just am. I am not a good shot at all. So I have no problem with people who want to arm themselves. I'm just not very good at it. I don't have a concealed permit because I'm not a very good shot.
I don't.
That's it.
Somebody says, Tom, do you have guns? No, because with my temperament, I would shoot somebody. So the best thing for me to do, the Second Amendment right gives everybody the right, every American citizen that's not a convicted felon, the right to own a firearm.
Sure, that's right.
But some people need to realize they have no business owning a firearm. I'm one of those people. I would get angry at somebody and shoot them. So the best thing for me to do is not to own a gun. But that's an adult decision that I made. The government doesn't make it for me. I made that decision.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. And I'm always amazed at people who are so offended that I own a gun. I'm not going to kill you. You know, when you look at the number of and I don't think you intended for this to turn into a Second Amendment discussion.
No.
But when you look at crime that's done in our country, it's not done by people who are well armed. I mean, it's just not. It's done by felons and suicide. That makes up for the bulk of our gun deaths.
Kennesaw, Georgia. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's also a suburb of
I am
Atlanta.
very familiar.
Kennesaw, Georgia
Yeah.
passed an ordinance in the early 80s, and it made national news. I remember I was living right near in Marietta right then. It made national news.
Sure.
All the talk shows came in and everything. And back then, there wasn't the 24-hour news wasn't the thing then. It was the talk shows. Remember the Sally Jeffrey Raphaels and the Mike Douglas and the Oprah had just started and everything. So they all come in. Because lo and behold, how could you pass a law, an ordinance inside the city limits, where if you live inside the city limits of Kennesaw, you must own a gun?
Yeah.
Crime rate in Kennesaw is almost zero.
I'll bet. I was unfamiliar with that law, but
yeah, criminals aren't going to go someplace they know that people are well armed. Hey, what's the most peaceful country in the world? Never gets involved in any armed conflict. Switzerland. 6 million people in Switzerland. You know what they have to do? Every Swiss citizen has to join the armed forces and get trained to defend Switzerland. And then when you leave the armed forces, they make you take your weapon with you. So Switzerland is the most well-armed country in the world. Every citizen there, not only do they own a rifle, they have been trained to use it properly. And nobody messes with Switzerland. Switzerland's peaceful. There's no crime there. Tell me why that is. It's not because, people don't want that piece of land. It's because when you go to attack Switzerland, there's 6 million well-armed, well-trained people there.
Yeah, that's correct. And again, I think that's a really undervalued statement because everybody compares it to, Australia with their massive gun buyback that they put through, and it's things like that. And that kind of thing just kind of drives me nuts. So, yeah. Or in London, their guns are illegal. So what do people do? They stab each other. So then they're going to try to outlaw knives over a certain length. Okay, that's going to solve the problem.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Look, people want to talk about the Wild West and how it was a Wild West with the gunslingers and all. Truth be told, it's a great story, and Hollywood made it very, very romantic. The whole Wild West and the great storytelling with the John Wayne movies and the Clint Eastwood movies, and all the westerns that were so popular in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. In actuality, the Wild West was much more law-abiding and much more respectful of individuals than back east was at the time. because you didn't screw up out west or you died. So people were much more respectful. They were much more in tune with each other. There was you see all these, there was bank robberies. Bank robberies, for the most part, took places in territories like Minnesota and Missouri and Nebraska. They didn't take place in California a whole lot. They didn't take place in Oregon. They didn't take place in Nevada and Arizona, because you would die. So
yeah. Hey, well, you're not wrong. You're absolutely not wrong. So, again, I going back to it. I just think it's a right for us to defend ourselves, and I think it's one of our most important rights.
Well, thank you for being the defender of those rights as a member of the Armed Services, and thanks to all of the members of the Armed Services and families of the Armed Services. That's something that gets lost in Veterans Day. We'll talk about that when we come back from break. Sometimes, though, you forget about the families of veterans and the sacrifice they give to be a member, to have a member of their family as a veteran. Galen, we're going to take a break to pay some bills from Penn Flooring in Palm Garden. We'll be right back after this short timeout.
Hi, this is JP from Penn Flooring here in Ocala. I would like to invite you to come in and visit our spacious showroom where we have solutions for every style and budget. From wall-to-wall carpet to hardwood floors and tiles, we have an unsurpassed selection of flooring. At Penn Flooring, we've provided quality customer service with a family touch for over 25 years. Visit our website at pennflooring.com or come by our showroom, 1201 Southwest 17th Street, just over the bridge. Penn Flooring, quality customer service with a family touch.
People ask me why I've worked at Palm Garden for so long, and I tell them it's the people. I love to hear the life stories, especially those from the greatest generation. Celebrating life stories is what sets Palm Garden apart, finding out what's important to them. And I love being a resource. Like Macy's Santa, if I can't help, I'll send them to Gimbel's. After all, Palm Garden is located on 34th Street. I'm Jan from Palm Garden. Call me and let's chat. 854-6262.
Now you did it. Are you completely insane? He's back. He, who must not be named. The man, the myth. The only guy in Ocala to eat his own weight in fried pickles. Twice. Now, you asked for it. Sorta. Live and in person. It's Tom Schmitz.
Welcome back to Ocala Talks with Tom Schmitz on a Veterans Day edition of Ocala Talks. We're speaking with a veteran of the U.S. Armed Services, Galen Unall from Life South. Galen, I think sometimes the thing that gets lost on people is we know the sacrifice that families go through when their loved ones don't come back from military service. But sometimes we don't really appreciate that when people are away, like you were bouncing across the globe, and I don't know if you were a married man at the time or not, but a lot of people have families, wives, and small children because they're just starting their adult lives, have small children back here to the United States as they're in places like Germany and Asia and Africa and South America and all over the world, Europe, and they don't get to see their family 13, 14, 18 months at a time. The sacrifices family make sometimes gets lost in the sacrifices veterans make, but it's all really a collective group, the families of veterans as well as the veterans themselves.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I mean, I know being in the Navy was much harder on my mother than it was on me. Because I wouldn't get mail for 3 months. I've talked about that a lot. Because my ship was always out and about all by itself. So, yeah, you're right. I wasn't married, but I know it was very hard on my mom. So, yeah, and I think that's an underrated piece of it. But I think the people who are in the military who have served and understand what that's like, I think they're much more appreciative. And I also believe they make better citizens. People ask me all the time, shouldn't everybody serve? No, I think our armed services is so strong is because it's a volunteer service. And I think that people who serve, they want to serve. And I think that's the way it should be. The fact that, and I know that the draft when it was instituted was done to fill a
gap that there wasn't enough people by our military standards to uphold, so they started bringing people in. I get that with Vietnam and all. You can argue the merits of whether that was proper or not. That's for another discussion. But to have a completely volunteer force is really an amazing feat for America to pull off. And I know a lot of people say, yeah, but right now the volunteer force is mainly minorities because it's their chance out. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I agree with that, because I know the military ain't the best paying job in the world.
Well, but it gives you so much else, whether, I've gotten far more benefits from the time I've been out than when I was in, whether it's mortgage, I got the GI Bill, there's tons of opportunity. And, we could talk about what is the makeup of the military all day long. The truth is that there's also a lot of people in there who their whole family has been in the military and they feel compelled to serve. For me, I'm very vocal as to why I joined. I joined because that was pretty much my only shot of ever getting out of Ocala. And I realized if I stayed in Ocala, I was never going to be able to make something of myself, and that's not what I wanted with my life. And the greatest decision I ever made was joining the United States Navy. And I'm proud of it. Yeah.
I was going in. I didn't go in. Like I said, I had a little run-in with the law, and the Marine Corps decided I wasn't a few good men. But I was going in because my father and my uncles and all had served, because they were the generation that come through Korea right after World War II. My dad and uncles had all come through Korea and Vietnam. So it was just something, they did it, and I was like, well, I have to do it because they did it. It was a family thing. You're entirely correct. A lot of people join because your uncle joined, or your brother joined, or your dad joined, or your mom joined, right. And you want to repay them for what they sacrificed. You want to do it as well, to continue that heritage in the family.
Yeah, and I'm glad that it's a volunteer service. I just am. I think that's the right way to go, and I think people needs to be. It's not a right to serve. It's an opportunity, and I think that's the way it should stay.
And today everybody's hyper-focused on Veterans Day, and I'm glad they are. I'm glad people set aside time. Banks closed today. Most of your other institutions are open, like the stock exchange and all is open, but banks closed today. And people just I see people on this day, they'll stop the guys in the veterans hats and go, hey, thanks for what you did, which is a far cry better than what they did when the guys came back from Vietnam, the way they were spitting on them and stuff like that. But now there's actual reverence for veterans, and it's great to see, but I wish it was more than just on Veterans Day. Anytime I see somebody that has a retired of military or something, or military, I walk up to them and I make it a point of mine to walk up and go, thank you for your service. Because without that service, I would not be able to say what I say on the radio, because maybe I live in a country that doesn't allow me to speak the way that I can speak on this radio. So it's very important to me to show that thanks on a daily basis. I'm glad we do it once a year on Veterans Day, but I implore people, you should always, when you see a veteran, walk up and thank them for the freedoms that you have available to you on a daily basis.
Yeah, I do appreciate that. I've always felt that Memorial Day is a much more a day in which we should really stop and think about the people who gave the ultimate sacrifice for our country. To me, I get a little embarrassed when people do that. I didn't, at the time I didn't serve so that people would look at me differently or anything else. I did it because, this is an opportunity for me, and let me see what I could do. I've become much more patriotic of when I got out than when I was in. So, I do appreciate it, but I always think about those that didn't make it, because Memorial Day is a much more honored day for me.
Yeah, well, Memorial Day is a much more somber day, a day of remembrance, a day of the celebration of life for those who gave the ultimate sacrifice. Veterans Day is the day that you go and say, hey, we know you're still here, but we still thank you for your service because you're important as well. And so they have two separate meanings to me. They both cover veterans, but Memorial Day is more of the ultimate sacrifice as a tune to Veterans Day, which is thank you for your service, not your sacrifice, but thank you for your service. Memorial Day is a thank you and thank your family for your sacrifice, the ultimate sacrifice of giving up your life for the freedoms you believe in.
Yeah, and I do like the Lowe's 10% discount. And I also like, maybe I'll get a free lunch somewhere today.
Let me tell you, we don't have time to do it here, but I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 different restaurants I'm going to tell you about that are offering free food for veterans today on Veterans Day.
All right.
I'll give you one
Good.
real quick, Gail. I'll give you one because it's still in the morning. You may be able to hit them. Wendy's. Veterans or active military personnel who present a valid military ID will be provided with a free small breakfast combo, absolutely free, between the hours of 6:30 a.m. and 10:30 a.m. Check your local Wendy's as breakfast hours may vary according to the chain, but Wendy's offered up an absolutely free small breakfast combo to any veteran or active military personnel.
Yeah, and I don't really have any way to prove I was a veteran. I guess I could bring my DD-214 and carry it around.
I bet you know where your DD-214 is right now.
Of course. By the way, anybody who's in the military, they don't know where it is lying. Because that's the one document when you get out, they're like, well, take care of this. Take copies.
It's like your birth certificate for the military.
It is, and now you can go online and actually and print it. So, there's a lot of different ways to get that DD-214.
Well, if people want to go donate a pint of blood in the honor of Veterans Day today, where can they do it?
Well, you can do it right there on the boulevard at 1607 East Silver Springs Boulevard. Please just come by, see us, say hello. We'd love to talk to you, and today is a day in which we do have a lot of veterans, and hopefully you can come out and donate for our veterans.
Where's the blood mobile today?
We do. Today, the blood mobile is going to be right back at Planet Fitness. So come by and see us, and again, just give the gift of life and donate blood.
Thanks for everything you did in your service to the country, Galen. And I know that you say that to all veterans as well. And thanks for what you and the folks at Life South do, preserving life on a daily basis. Hey, we'll talk to you tomorrow, pal.
Hey, thank you very much, Tom. Happy Veterans Day. Bye.
We'll be right back. 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, WOCA, The Source.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
News with Lance Pry. As the world waits for the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine to get FDA approval, the pandemic's numbers continue to rise as winter is settling in. The United States has just over 9 million confirmed cases and nearly 230,000 deaths linked to the virus. Dr. Anthony Fauci, the nation's infectious disease expert, says Pfizer's findings of the coronavirus vaccine candidate that is more than 90% effective were extraordinary. Fauci's comments to the Washington Post came just 2 days after he told the American Medical Association that once a vaccine is approved and once a substantial portion of the population gets it, the country could see some semblance of normal.